Bill Pulte and John Solomon to go in there. They've been in there, what, 4 weeks? 4 weeks after they start. Think about that for a second. 4 weeks after they start. 4 weeks. You have now the ability of the president to go and address the nation. And this is just the top of the first thing. You're just going to get a taste. You're going to get your beak wet. That's what you're going to do. You're going to get your beak wet. It's going to shock you. The president, not me, the president says, this is really big news, does not get any bigger. This is really big news, does not get any bigger. Now, we're trying to get the viceroy. He's running around. We're trying to get him because there's a big story in Jack Smith in Gateway Pundit. And I would put out there that right-wing media with no resources has done a heck of a job over the last couple of years. And I say this as someone that has ran Breitbart from March of 2012 after Andrew passed away. And Andrew built that magnificent site and put all his efforts into building that magnificent new site that's there. But you look at, Raheem, you look at National Pulse and the Federalist and Breitbart and the Glenn Beck operation, and you've got Gateway Pundit, and you have on and on and on. You got Citizen Kane. We got our own Drudge. We got every different aspect. You can have reflective news. You can have people putting out trends as they come, trending news, everything. You got a whole palette. You can wake up in the morning and go to hit your top conservative news things. You can stay for hours with the different stories and the different way they break it down. And we've got, you got Real America's Voice. You also have the One American News guys. You got Newsmax. You got Fox. You got others. You got these podcasts, dozens and dozens of podcasts. You got a whole lot of stuff, right? Did any of those people get briefed by the White House like MSNBC did? Or any of those people out there with the level of detail MSNBC has? Is anybody out there? You seen that? I've looked. I certainly have not seen it. Why did we brief MSNBC? And people say, well, Steve, you got to back up. No, I'm not going to back off it. The president went into exile in January of 2021. You remember, if you were watching the show at this time, exactly what we talked about and what we were going to do, and that the president we were going to rally and the president was going to come back, and people laughed in our face because it was all Ron DeSantis and Nikki Haley, and you got to move on. In fact, there was a guy the next night, and I will not speak ill of the dead. I'll just give you facts. But there was a guy the next night, or maybe it was the night of January 6th, that stood up in the Senate and said, I've had enough. I've put up with it for too long. That was a senator from South Carolina that said, yeah, this got to be held accountable. You got to do this. You got to do that. Mitch McConnell was all saying, Mitch McConnell, you've got to do this. You got to do that. Trump's evil. Let's impeach him again. Because if we impeach him again, then we've driven him. Then we've taken the torch and gotten the Frankenstein monster out. We've driven him out. Well, there was a hardcore of MAGA folks that said, nah, I don't think so. This election was stolen, and it was covered up by people in authority. And that's the beginning of what you're going to see on Thursday night. So they can sit there and yammer all they want. You're going to see about the 2020 election. And President Trump, he's already dropping a bomb on Ossoff. Ossoff already running for president. He'll drop a bomb and say, yo, Ossoff, I'm not so sure you're that legitimate today. Well, Biden wasn't legitimate. In fact, you want to, and I said this back in January of 2021, you want to talk about mind-numbing complexity? Think about the civil legal issues we have from Biden not being the legitimate, if it's true that he was an illegitimate regime of which the War Room said over and over and over again, if that's the case, how complicated is that in civil court, that everything he did was illegitimate? How are you going to unwind that? I don't know. It's easier to do that, or you got to make that effort to do that, to face the facts that the 2020 election was stolen. you had foreign interference, and you had apparatuses that you, the taxpayer, pay for that just sat there and willingly looked the other way.